Welcome, everybody, to Getting to the Root of Modern Dis-ease. In this self-empowering summit, we will envision a new paradigm for healing based on wholeness, tapping into foundational wisdom, both ancient and modern, to create the conditions that favor deep and lasting healing of body, mind, and spirit. Step out of the box with me and our panel of healers as we open a deep and transformative conversation that gets to the very root of modern dis-ease and allows access to the healing powers that are your birthright. I'm your host, Gina Sager, and today it is my pleasure to welcome Prune Harris.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us, Prune.
Really my pleasure. I'm excited to be here with you all.
Yes. I've had the great good fortune of learning about you through my energy medicine work, but let me tell everyone who you are. Able to see energy since birth, Prune Harris is a holistic health expert, a medical intuitive, and a British shaman. Since 2012, as well as running a full-time practice, Prune has taught extensively throughout the UK and overseas, sharing her expert knowledge and profound insights about energy, consciousness, and soul care. She's also one of the leading faculty members of Donna Eden's European and American programs. And they are so blessed to have you, Prune. Oh my goodness, today Prune is going to talk to us about dynamic transformation, your biofield and you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to pick that up, Gina, because it's, yeah, sure, I've seen energy since I was tiny, and one of the things that really grabs me, there's two things about a human energy system and an animal energy system that grabs me first up. One is the way in which the soul of the being shines really bright. So that's really looking at the energetic core, yeah? And the way with every single being, that light is there and shines so strongly in its own amazing colors or movement, but it's the most striking thing about any individual. The second thing is that the biofield, now we used to use the word aura, didn't we? Aura was what we said, and in 1992 the National Institute for Health kind of moved it into a more technical term of biofield, and since then, you know, those of us that try and keep up with science, we've tried to get our head around that concept as well. So aura, biofield, totally interchangeable. But the biofield of the human being or the animal is the second thing that's most noticeable, because it has an immense dynamism to it. And that was why when you came forward with this wonderful summit topic of really getting to the roots of modern disease, then for me, there was such an obvious place to really share information about, and that is the biofield, because it holds not the blueprint of our health, that's in deeper parts in our energy system, but it conveys the information about our health. And so the aura has the potential to massively enhance wherever we're at, or to really limit and inhibit it. And I thought, fabulous, that's what we need to chat about.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. So just tell us more. I guess people sort of have an idea of what the aura is, but can you tell us a little more about what it, like, what do you see, and you know, a little more about what it is and how it can aid us?
Absolutely, because one of the kind of fallacies about the aura that I want us to really move away from, often I'll hear the aura described as something that's kind of external to us. We might have it described as a spacesuit or something that kind of surrounds us. And that's a great analogy, but it doesn't give the impression that we create our own aura. Our dynamism, our cellular vitality, our luminosity, our essential energy shining from within our center, our physical health, our cellular vitality, all of that plays a part in how much energy we have to radiate from the depth internally into a big space around us. So we know that, we're really aware of it. There are times when maybe you look in the mirror or you see your friend and you see that they're just smaller that day. They haven't changed shape physically, but they are smaller, indicating that that level of vitality or radiance in the system has diminished in them for whatever reason. and they might be ill, they might be working with emotional aspects that are really kind of taking the vitality out of the system. Conversely, we know those times when, wow, we look in the mirror or we look at our friend and we think, wow, they are just radiating today, because that cellular vitality has really kicked in, and electromagnetically, it's now creating what we would call the biofield. So having a start point of physical vitality, that ability to radiate energy, obviously has a lot to do with groundedness. And the great news is that the aura itself is a big grounding tool. And again, we tend to think of our feet or maybe our head as far as bringing energy in electromagnetically, then we're very aligned. But actually, one of the key roles of the aura is to keep you firmly held in your magnificent place of being. So it's great that we have a strong aura, and it's great that we nourish the body physically, emotionally, spiritually, in whatever ways is appropriate for us, so that actually we have that ability to create this big biofield. I'm going to keep going, because the biofield itself holds all of our patterns. So whether we're working with experiencing disconnect or separation, and that might be separation from nature, separation from other people, separation from family. Often it's separation from self. It's that place of actually the big communication system that should be weaving its way through your biofield. It's hitting places of congestion or depletion within the biofield. So it means the beautiful big pattern that says, I am amazing and have a right to be here in this world and shine my light. Maybe that pattern is hitting a place of depletion or a congested previous programming that you brought in when you were little, or when you had your first big breakup in a relationship, or whatever it is. So working with the biofield to create that potential for dynamic transformation is absolutely key.
Oh my gosh, and I'm just thinking about how much of the time we spend, I guess I'll speak for myself, in judgment of why are you like this and why don't you do that? And just understanding what I know from the Western medical model, it's only like that. I mean, it seems really black and white, but to add this information and fluidity and the possibility that we can help ourselves just is amazing and astonishing to me, and really part of the reason that I'm doing this at all.
Yeah, fabulous.
It speaks back to the Buddhist way of seeing the world from the very beginning, that I often reflect, not always positively, on how my life might have been different if I would have been aware of my own inner light, my own basic goodness, my own capacity to create. Instead of thinking I always had to be careful or I was going to do something wrong. I mean, it's a huge shift in paradigms that it just in this moment, I have a flash of changing the entire mental health field, changing the entire physical health field. I mean, leading us all to a greater place of health and well-being and just ease.
Absolutely, absolutely. And let's really remember, I want to go back to where you started with that one about that place of judgment. Any pattern in your energy system which may now be perceived as a pattern of limitation was an incredibly wise strategy when it came in. And if we can really, really hold that and understand that, then the patterns tend to dissolve. If we can simply embrace them and say, whatever it is, whatever this limiting pattern, I don't think I'm good enough, or I'll never have a relationship, or I'm always going to be ill, whatever that limiting pattern is that your aura is holding, then if we can say, hey, well, I kind of believe that, and I know it's not good for my holistic and fullest health, then it was a wise strategy when it came in. It came in for a good reason. And if we can simply pay attention to that, your energy fields, especially your biofield, is hugely affected by consciousness. So talk about a paradigm shift. If you're able to hold the concept that, this kind of messy pattern that I engage in again and again and again, it once was a wise strategy. And the minute we hold that, the consciousness of it helps it dissolve. And wow, that's already then where there was space or where there was congestion in the biofield, suddenly there's connectivity. And at that place, it's amazing how quickly a pattern can move from something that's been restricted to something that simply isn't there anymore.
Yeah, and I think that in at least my Western medical mind, of course, I'm totally drawn to energy work for this very reason. But we don't have the language for that.
No.
This is like a whole new language for me to learn. I feel that it's true, but I have not had the language to express it to myself or to other people. And
Yeah.
it feels so life affirming. It feels so empowering. When we again are so attuned to like getting out the scales, like how am I doing? Is this good or bad or right or wrong or better or worse? Instead of just like seeing and being with what is so and using that information to make a different choice if you want to. Sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
But that level of empowerment, it's so missing, Prune. It is so missing.
Yeah. Well, when we look at the reductionist approach to health or life or relationships or communities, and we kind of put everything in little boxes, then by their very nature there's space between those boxes, isn't there? And I think when we think energetically, especially when we look at something like the biofield, we realize that there is no separation. So, sure, the chakras might have a different vibration than the meridians, that might have a different vibration than the entire biofield. But that's more vibrational understanding for us to be able to categorize it, to be able to think about it. I can't take my chakras out of my body. I can't say, great, I can see your meridians, but I'm going to move them over here. That's not possible because we are that huge interconnective whole. And that's what the biofield does. It regulates the complex interweaving of our whole system. That's why it's such a fascinating place to enhance, to nurture, to bring your consciousness to. It's really beautiful. One of the things I see is that, let's say someone's working with an affirmation. Yeah. Now, first thing is the affirmation has to have some truth in it. If it's a downright lie, then the energy system can't hold that. The aura will collapse more, it will get duller, and it won't be carried to the places that it needs to be carried to. Yeah. You have a question?
No, I want you to say that again because that's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I say a truth, let's say I'm going to say an affirmation that I would like to get to. And sometimes the positive affirmations are beautiful aspirations, aren't they? They may not be a statement that you believe at that time. Well, if the whole of your system can't buy into that affirmation, then actually, as you say it, as you think it, your biofield collapses because it's a lie. And we're designed to be cohesive. We're designed to live in truth. And that's kind of whatever truth we're living in. I'm not saying there's one truth by any means, but we're designed to be in relationship with our entire environments. So if I say a statement and my system really can't buy into it, then at that point is going to be a negative statement I'm saying. Doesn't matter what I'm tapping, doesn't matter what I'm zipping up, it's not going to be able to carry into the system. If I change it slightly, and if I say an affirmation such as, I'm curious about coming into my full health, for example. Let's say someone's been working with disease for a while and they say, every day I feel healthier and healthier. But what if it's not true? What if they said that 5 years ago and they're still saying it and they're in exactly the same position? Well, then at that point, all of the energy fields, especially the biofield, block that as a potential truth. They can't carry that message. So actually, if we can say, I'm curious about how my health will be in a year's time, or I feel inviting for better health every day. Change the language around it, and suddenly the energy field opens up to that as a potential. So now communication is flowing because there's nothing in the system that meets that with resistance. It can carry it as a truth. And then you can get really dynamic change because, in essence, you're bringing in question marks into the energy system. And if there's question marks, there's the potential for space. And if there's the potential for space, energy flows. And one thing I do want to say is that everybody's energy system knows how to be healthy. Every energy system knows how to hold radiance and vitality without exception, because that comes from that amazing core that I was talking about at the very start. So that template of health, of vitality, of radiance is absolutely hardwired into every cell you have. So therefore, all we have to do is remind the body and give it the vehicle for communication. And that's where the biofield comes in so importantly, because it is the vehicle for communication.
Wow, that is just, again, so empowering, because again, who tells anybody to remember their radiance?
Yeah.
I mean, except in this kind of a forum. It doesn't happen. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen in schools. It doesn't happen in hospitals. And it's essential, because again, I've been in a position to have, people suggest affirmation work, and without understanding it energetically, I'm just like, I'm not saying that because it's not true.
Yeah.
And then I'm labeled as resistant, but I'm happy to know that that's not the case.
No, that you should be labeled as deeply wise in that respect. You knew that your system couldn't work with that. Yeah, beautiful.
I mean, that is so helpful to people who are trying to, generally it's put in terms like put on a positive attitude or, think positively. I've always struggled with that, because if I don't feel positive, if I don't feel well, it doesn't make sense to talk myself out of the experience.
Absolutely. I would say the place for me that's so important when we feel in that kind of somewhat stagnant place, the place for me is to remember I have choice in every situation. And if I choose to sit in that experience and gather the learnings that feel important to me, then that's my choice and that's perfect. And people in my life and family need to give me the space to do that. If I choose that actually I'm playing out a pattern that isn't really healthy, that isn't really serving me, it's an old pattern, I can respect it. And right now it's a little bit stuck and I choose to move out of that, then I can be empowered to do that because I know I have the ability. Maybe I have to go for a walk or do some energy exercises or go and have a cup of tea with a friend and just shift. You talk about shifting a paradigm. Sometimes when we can simply sit with a friend, that energy shifts and we're suddenly able to receive more of our natural flow.
And again, that too is just brilliant, because who knows that? We really have the tendency, I think, to take a leap, like I'm here and I want to be there.
Yeah.
And we don't give ourselves the time and space to simply honor the experience that we're having.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
How do we even teach people that? How do you, I try to teach it in my mindfulness classes, but sometimes it's really hard.
Yeah.
Like, how do you invite people to their basic goodness, to their inner light, to the fact that these are just, I don't mean to minimize it, but these are just energy patterns. And because they're energy, they have the potential to change on a dime.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, I think it comes down to one, careful choice of language. Yeah, if we can respect the language we use with ourselves, with our family, with each other, then actually language has massive ability to expand our consciousness, to reflect things slightly different. So choosing to be mindful about language use, and especially the language you use with yourself, that is a real biggie. Sometimes that's not even accessible and possible because we really are moving in a very set way. And so then to educate people about their energy fields, because energy fields are fields of consciousness. And so actually when we're able to have a simple understanding that, okay, right now I feel like the world is overwhelming and I don't know what I'm doing here. Yeah. So then if they understand, right, well, this is probably my fight, flight, and freeze kicking in, which of course we have understandings in the biomedical. People are familiar with that, or they can say something like, I feel really stressed right now. So if we can understand, all right, well then this is a lovely exercise for stress and overwhelm. So anytime I feel like this, I have the choice to put my hands on my head and take a few breaths. And often it's simply about empowering people to experience the difference. Because if someone's done this 3 or 4 times and they've immediately felt like, oh, phew, 1, the world feels safer. 2, I don't feel so overwhelmed. And 3, oh my goodness, I did that to me. Wow, I am not a victim of my own body. I'm not a victim of my health. I'm not a victim of a medical system. I'm empowered to bring those changes to myself. Then we've got curiosity. And again, the minute we've got a question mark in an energy field, we've got movement and flow. So that's the place, I think, the more we can inform our children, our colleagues, our loved ones of just these simple exercises and why they're effective, then actually it doesn't take long before people grab the empowerment of it.
Yes. Yes, and that is one of the many things that I love about energy work, is that you really do have the power in your own hands. And that, for those of us who have lived a lot of life not feeling empowered, sort of feeling like you're stuck in a situation or with a disease, even just to be able to put your hand on your head and feel yourself settle into your current reality is really life altering. Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, I've worked in private practice for nearly 20 years now. And for me, there is only one objective of working with clients, and that's to empower them. I love meeting a client and knowing that I'm going to get them off my books. That's the only objective to actually working, is to empower that person so that not only they can move beyond where they are with whatever limitation has brought them through the door, but that they'll have an amazing toolkit for when something else gets thrown at them in life, then actually it doesn't have to rock their world, that they can continue to be in communication with themselves to be able to navigate that in a really supported and protected way. Because so often it's that fallacy that we're alone that leads to so much disconnect within us, doesn't it? Energetically, things get very discombobulated and congested at that point when we really feel separate, when we really feel alone. And that's not anybody's natural way. Nobody's natural way is kind of to have chunks of separation in them. The aura is amazingly dynamic. And even we got about talking about affirmations, because if somebody is working with an affirmation and it is working in their system, if it's something that the system has truth with and really loves, then the aura will reflect the energy of the affirmation before they've even thought it. So as that flash of biochemistry goes through their body to help them think about it, that's the flash of color or shifting or connection in the biofield that occurs. So by the time you've thought your thought, your energy system was seconds ahead of you. And that's fascinating. That really lets us know that our biofield follows our consciousness, and it is lightning quick.
And so that brings a level of curiosity and sort of responsibility to know what we're feeding it, right?
Absolutely.
To be aware the world is feeding us things that maybe do not. They're just as untrue as affirmations that may be untrue. And to be more conscious, because my consciousness, is this what you're saying? My consciousness about the fact that that's not true for me is going to help me not let that in.
Yeah, totally. But let's remember that your biofield is designed to be an amazing buffer. It's supposed to filter anything that isn't for your best interest. So actually, it's not even so much that we need to be conscious about, that person who's having a bad day over there that you feel is kind of spilling negative energy, or the 5G or the crazy lights in that supermarket. Like, we don't even have to make the conscious choice, right, I'm kind of putting up my buffer and that's not getting in, because if we're in our place of vitality, your energy field will automatically filter that out. So I think there's still we're working somewhat with a heritage of the biomedical worldview that says we have to work hard.
Yes.
We have to figure it out. We have to like strive to be healthy. Now, none of that's real. Yeah, your energy field, everybody's energy field, knows how to be naturally cohesive, and it should be easy, seamless, effortless. And so, how do we get there? Because that, for all of us who don't feel that we're there at times, then what's the defining factor? And it's that core resiliency. And that comes from that feeling of connection. So if I'm having a bad day, and so my biofield's a little bit more depleted, and maybe I feel a little bit sad, and if I can remember that I belong here in this amazing, amazing planet, that I have the gift of life, that I can give gratitude for it, the minute I can bring in gratitude, even if, let's say someone's having a really bad day and they can't even think of any single thing they're grateful for. If they can find something outside of themselves, I'm grateful for this water that I have to drink right now, and begin to work with that gratitude, then actually very quickly the system finds its cohesion, it finds its strength. So there are 100 ways that our energy systems really respond to external and internal changes in our environment. So being able to nourish ourselves nutritionally, that's super key, super key. And there's all kinds of trendy diets, whether it's certain times of hours to eat, or certain foods to eat, or certain foods not to eat. But actually what the question is for every person is, what can you eat that nourishes your body? And it's going to be different than your wife or your friend or your partner or your child. And so finding that nutritional sourcing for you is absolutely vital for your biofield. And if it's vital for your biofield, it's vital for your entire health.
And I don't mean to keep going back to this, but my experience personally and in my work is that people don't know this place in themselves.
Yeah.
They don't know it. They don't trust it. It might sound very appealing, and I'm curious about whether it sounds appealing to people who do sort of know it but don't know that they know it. But how, like, when somebody's really, really ill, like how can, it is hard to be grateful, but how can we remind people of their power?
Yeah. So for me, I've observed some key exercises that can begin to bring people just slowly, gently, deeply back to themselves. Yeah. And sometimes that's the first meeting of themselves. Sometimes they've never really been in themselves. They've been in what someone else has perceived they should be. But there's one simple exercise. So for any of our participants who are feeling like, yeah, sounds great, but that's not me. I can't get there. Yeah. Or, well, that's easy for her to say because she works with energy, but I don't. So for any of you who are feeling disconnected from the potential of full health, yeah, because that's what it is. It's about having that potential, that seed of belief that no matter where I am right now, I deeply trust it will evolve for me. And that deep trust is indeed the absolute seed, isn't it? It's the place that we love to see inspired in people. And once it's inspired, my goodness, how people leap forward in their health, in their ability to kind of effortlessly transform all of the shackles that have been holding them back. So that one exercise, and it's not so much a biofield exercise, but hey, the conversation's gone in a different way, would be to have one hand on the forehead and one hand on the abdomen. So let's just everybody take just a few breaths here, and don't change anything about your breath. However it is right now, however it moves or shifts is totally perfect. Remember, we don't have to control anything about our body. We don't even have to direct. When we hold these two places, there's an amazing, amazing radiant circuit and meridian that runs from deep inside the abdominal area and all the way up the front of the body to the face. And another one, its partner, that runs from the same place deep inside the abdominal area all the way up the back of the body and over the head into the face where they meet. And those two deeply wise and conscious systems are able to help you gradually come deeper and deeper and deeper into connection with yourself, your essence, your shining light. So this is the exercise, I would say, for everybody feeling not able to reach their vitality or their radiance yet. This is the place to start. This is the settling, and you can do it in bed, just prop pillows under your arms. You can do it sitting, standing. You can rest your elbows on the table. So it really is accessible to anyone, and that is an amazing exercise. If you have shoulder issues and you can't get your hand up here, then one hand on the abdomen and the other hand on the top of the chest, the bottom of the throat. That will also ask these two amazing systems to come together.
Oh, that's so nice. It feels so good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really love that you say that, Gina, because that's the other thing. After you've done an exercise like that, especially to those of you who perhaps are new to working with energy exercises, just check in. How do I feel? Do I feel any differently? Always curiosity. Always, do I feel any differently? And some days it might be a no, in which case you can always go back and hold for longer. In many cases, it will be a, oh, yeah, I do feel different. No attachment to it, but it's going to start reprogramming those amazingly wise strategies that are no longer serving you. It's going to start reprogramming them so that you can experience that big, amazing fullness of life that every single one of us are here to live.
I mean, that's just beautiful to imagine that, again, we have the power to access that place. I mean, and part of the reason I'm going over and over this is because this is where I've lived most of my life. You know, it's not possible. I see that everybody else has got whatever, but I can't find it in me. I just can't find it. And so that's sort of the lens through which I have seen, and it's the people that are called to me, you know, to work with me now, because they know that I know that they don't know. And so it's always trying to figure out, like, because at some level, when you don't feel like you're in touch with your inner light, it's a little bit intrusive and makes me grouchy for somebody to tell me that it's in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I would really encourage people who experience themselves like that is take a check at the end of the day and do a really integral one, because people who are talking how you're talking right now, Gina, they're a very specific energy type, okay? 1/5 of the population, very specific energy type. And they're incredibly discerning, and they're amazing at analyzing things. So one thing I would say to a person in that situation is make a list at the end of the day and commit to doing it. Take 20 minutes to sit down and write down any times during the day where you felt like there was a bit more expansion, flow, or connection to something or someone, including yourself. And it's amazing when we start doing an exercise like that. It might be on the first day you do it, you can think, well, you know, when I sat in the garden for those few minutes, I did feel and appreciate the beauty around me. Great, that's one thing you write down. And when I had that conversation with my colleague, I really valued the respect that he or she showed me. So you write that down. So you begin, first day, there will only be a few, because you won't be identifying the connection and the beauty of that moment. It's different, you know, a big bubbly personality that's, oh my goodness, life's amazing. And if we ask them to write down that connectiveness in the day, it would go on for a book every day. But for people who are much more yin in their energy flow moves much more internally. It doesn't look to connect in the same way. It's not a deficiency in any way. Those people are deep thinkers. They're the people that you want to have great discussions on. They're really deep creative type. So engaging in that level of depth means that their energy systems has to be internal. So they're very, very good at traveling internally and back to the periphery in themselves. What can be challenging is connecting outside themselves. So actually that exercise of writing down just the times when you identify you're connecting outside yourself can be amazing, because what you realize over 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, that actually you're spending most of your day connecting. It's just in a different, you've defined it slightly differently. And suddenly you're not comparing yourself to the big, oh my goodnesses of the world. You're comparing yourself to yourself, and you're realizing, I connect all the time. I feel that deep, gentle flow would describe as joy or vitality, but it is your joy and your vitality. So we have a concept of joy being bubbly. Actually, joy can be deep and profound. We have a concept of vitality being kind of glowing radiance that we see on the billboards or the catwalk. And actually, that vitality can be that kind of deep hum inside you that lets you know that you're living your life. So redefining some of the words that we're using is really, really key for people who have much more yin, deep, profound energy systems.
Wow, thank you. That's really beautiful. That really helps a lot. I think that's going to help a lot of people who are struggling, because that's what I hear a lot. You know, like, this stuff sounds good, but it doesn't feel like me. And how to speak it so that it is, so that you recognize it in your language.
Absolutely. So key, isn't it? So key. Every single person has the most unique energy field, totally unique. So it's not going to work. What might work for you is work for someone else. So yeah, finding your unique relationship with you, that's the key to a really beautiful life.
And this is one way, right? This is one very important way, this energy work, because, and I particularly think it's an important way because it doesn't carry with it the judgment. It doesn't compare you to another. It does allow you to work in your own way, in your own body, with your own way of moving energy. So back
Absolutely.
to the biofield. I'm sorry to distract from the biofield, but back to the biofield and the chakras and the meridians. Like, help us know a little more about this very complex and yet highly changeable energetic environment in which we live.
Yeah, well, kind of think of this beautiful biofield, whether it's nice and protective or whether it's nice and expansive. Think about it as being the regulator of information. So obviously, the chakra field sits, so we have 7 main chakras that go down the energetic core of the body from the head down to the very base of the abdomen or pelvic bowl. So they come out through the biofield. Your meridian energy comes out through a less far part of the biofield, but still, all of these systems inform each other. So actually, one of the really key systems in the biofield are what would look like figure eights. So for people who've trained with Donna Eden, they'll know that they can work with that figure eight system into the aura, and that will really enhance communication. It will enhance that ability for your biofield to act as that incredible regulating and co-creating field, which is what it's got immense organizing principles to itself, but our consciousness continually creates that. So the biofield really is the vehicle for transformation. It will hold patterns that don't serve us, and at the same time, when we observe someone doing something differently, is going to bring that in as an understanding. So now we're holding these 2 or 22 different understandings in the energy field, and that's where something like the chakras will begin to take that information and filter it and process it in order to bring that back out into the biofield to be carried differently. So this biofield, really see it as an amazing 2-way communicator. It regulates everything at the same time as creating it. And in some ways that seems like a big paradox, doesn't it? I guess it's exactly the same perspective, that we co-create our world continually by our definition of reality, and that shows up in the aura. I want to go back to one thing you were talking about, Gina, as far as when people feel, you did an action which made me think about people who kind of feel like they're not connecting, feel like in some way there's parts of them that can't connect. Well, let's say you came and you were in the same room as that person, and with your beautiful yin energy, you are holding a biofield that has integrity, that maybe isn't the most bubbly and expansive, but still has its strength, has its movement. Your biofield will begin to affect the biofield of the person in the room with you. So our own individual strength and groundedness and gentleness or exuberance, whatever it is, can be immediately in communication with anyone else around us. And that's the fascinating thing. For I just love that in a room. You know, maybe I'm teaching understandings on consciousness and energy, and somebody comes forward and they really start moving things in their field. The people all around them, immediately their fields respond. It's like health begets health. Curiosity invites curiosity. And that's an incredible field. You know, it's like the people around you and yourself begin to hold a different biofield collectively. And there's all kinds of information of wholeness and wellness in that. So we can never be individual. We can never be separate from anyone else that we're in the vicinity with, because we're already in a communication process from the very moment we're within, 40 feet of each other. Our biofields are communicating. So that's a fascinating touch too.
Yes, that is fascinating. I mean, to think that you're going to hide in the corner of the room is really not going to work anymore, is it?
No, but people who feel like they need to hide in the corner of the room, their energy fields, especially the biofield, is in a really beautiful place. It's a place of, for those of you who like Harry Potter, you'll know the invisibility cloak. It's that the aura has put an invisibility cloak around it, and at the same time it's very open to receiving. Now that's a beautiful, beautiful strategy. It's like, you imagine that invisibility cloak that will send out little tendrils to say, are you friendly? Are you safe? Are you something I would like to engage with? So that feeling of hiding is a deeply wise and very graceful. It always looks like that energy field of that individual is filled with grace, that they've put a little field around them to protect them. And that's perfectly fine. That's something that every one of us has a right to do in any situation.
Wow. And again, Prune, this would change so many things if people saw how they are instead of what they think they're doing means.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Just open so many doors and let people take a breath.
Yeah. Well, Gina, I love that you bring that forward, because that was exactly why I moved into teaching. There was a little boy that was walking up my drive, my son, and he was kind of about 6 at this point, and he had his friend with him, and I turned to my husband and I said, oh my goodness, like this kid, I mean, he shines his light so brightly. And I looked at my husband kind of expectantly, and he looked at me and he said, I don't see anything like that. And I looked at him and I said, but you see that light that he's following, that amazing light. And he's like, no. I couldn't even comprehend it. I'm like, how on earth do you navigate through the world if you don't see that kind of information? And I grilled him for about 40 minutes. Did he see this? Did he see that? Because even in my understanding, this is in my 30s, even in my understanding at that point that not everybody saw energy as I did, I had no concept that some of those really fundamental energetic experiences weren't necessarily perceived by everybody. Now I've taught hundreds and thousands of people by this point to perceive energy, maybe not through their eyes, in different ways, but we're all born with that right. It's just the way that those senses kind of get shut down. So I absolutely agree with you that if we can educate people to what's happening, like the real magnificence of themselves, then wow, we'd be in a whole different place in our societies.
Yes, and that goes back to trust, right? Because I'm continually talking myself out of these little intuitive light bulbs that are flashing, even though I may not see the light. Something happens and I say, oh, no, 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 that was just my imagination. So to just call,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a, some people will have a more natural relationship to those intuitive hits, and some people will bring their beautiful, big, rational mind into those intuitive hits. And the real gift is when every one of us starts bringing both in. We can bring the logic and the rational, we can bring the instinctive and the intuitive, and kind of keep playing with both of them. That's when, that's when life really opens up.
And again, for those of us who have like a left brain mentality going, I think the fear is that if I start to pay attention to these intuitive things, if I get more in touch with my energetic self, I'm going to lose my cognitive abilities. And that is not true at all. It opens so many more doors. And
no, not at all.
Not expertise is, it's going to be exponentially increased because you're making more space. It's really like an energetic way of speaking, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's that real place of being able to invite more fullness of all of your processing abilities. So it doesn't mean that you suddenly lose all rationality. It might mean that sometimes if somebody asked you, why did you do that? Or what helped you make that decision? You're going to answer, I don't know. I don't have a rational explanation for it. But still, experience will suggest to you again and again and again that it was a good decision. And then you begin to validate the fact that, well, I kind of think I had an understanding of why I did it, but now I'm being asked, I never did. It was just instinct. It was just intuition. And I mean, we in our cultures, we put a lot of weight on that. If we think about the police, and them having a hunch or following their gut on something. We have a lot, people follow their nose on something. Oh, I've just got this gut feeling. So actually it might have been more marginalized in the mainstream scientific approach of the last 200 years, but it still exists very, very deeply within our cultures, within our subconscious. So yeah, it's kind of about reawakening that part, valuing it more so that we can really weave together.
Yes, and it just speaks to me to, again, the power that we have in this moment to feel possibility. Because that's the place that I think we get stuck. There's no possibility. I can't see my way out of here. But to just know that opening door and making space has the potential to start to change on its own. Instead of having to have the way out.
Absolutely. And just dropping into the body system at that point can be such a gift when we feel that we're sort of up against a wall, up against an edge, to drop into the body. How do I feel about this? What do I think about this? That's great. Often we know what we think because we've worked those pathways again and again and again. We've worked them so much they're kind of looping in us. But how do I feel about this? What could make me feel differently about this? And suddenly we're asking more of the somatic senses. We're asking that instinct, that intuition. We're inviting that to join the discussion. If we can think of it that way, that now we're kind of housing a bit of a discussion. And the minute we've got that, we've got potential for space, which means potential for health, potential for movement, potential for how we want to live, rather than sometimes how we feel ourselves living.
Yes, I just cannot get over how important and powerful that is. Just to trust and to make that kind of space, and really to remember who we really are instead of
that's absolutely it. Yeah, That's so key. And often it's about rediscovery, isn't it? Remembering sometimes feels hard work, but actually rediscovering, being curious. If I could have an intuitive thought to buy, which one would it be? If I wasn't thinking it through, if I was just feeling, what does my gut feeling tell me? Is it this house or is it this house? Is it this dress or this dress? Whatever it is. And just playing with that begins to invite that place of expansion in our energy fields. And the minute that's in, then the biofield kind of grabs that. And quite quickly, Gina, it becomes the new norm. So you're no longer kind of battling it. You don't have to work so hard to think, all right, blimey, I'm feeling a bit into my edge place. I'm a bit tight. And stress is high. Adrenal energy is saying, and I don't really know what to do. Quite soon it becomes that actually you feel there's more flow in every situation. Maybe stress is there, but also this curiosity. And when they're hand in hand, then quite quickly the stress starts to diminish. And that's a beautiful feeling when you begin to engage in that place of recognizing your choices around stress.
Yes. Yes, that is so, so very important. Yeah, we can all use more of that.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes that's where our loved ones come in very helpfully. And sometimes it's when they come in not so helpfully.
And just really to start to see everything as an opportunity to learn and to stop, putting up barriers, but just go like, what is like, well, that's interesting. What is that?
Yeah, totally. Curiosity is such an amazing healer, isn't it? Because when we're curious, we can't be judgmental. And that place of judgment just closes so much, doesn't it? Really, that judgment separates energy systems, separates left and right brains. But when we can bring in that curiosity, wow, we've got movement.
Yeah, and so when we turn on the fight or flight response, where I think most of us live most of our lives, there's no space for curiosity because it's not safe. So that's sort of the trick that I'm trying to learn and teach. Is like, if I can just recognize that I am stressed out and open the door to curiosity, it's gonna disable the ongoing fight or flight response, because you cannot be curious if you are seriously in immediate danger.
Absolutely.
It can start to break you out of it, and it becomes a process. It becomes an experiment. It becomes your willingness to like not freak out that you're freaking out, really.
Yeah, totally. And that's where that exercise that we did is really beautiful, because for me, it's not even about disabling that fight, flight, freeze. It's dissolving it. So it doesn't have to exist as something that kind of might yet kick in. It's something that actually begins to integrate in the system. So that fight, flight, freeze, which from the Chinese health perspective, that would be a system called the triple burner or the triple warmer system. And it's one of two protective systems. Our other protective system is the heart protector or the pericardium. And that heart protector protects our soul and our heart. The triple burner system protects our body. Well, we spend so much time working with this triple burner system that's kind of closing in around the body that often we don't ask the questions about the heart and soul. And the minute we do, this yin protective system is far more powerful than the yang protective system. So the minute we start saying things like, what do I need to do to nurture myself today? Then this beautiful protective system says, oh, I feel better already. And it can simply begin to dissolve and be supported. Often we take the old paradigm approach of battling stress, fighting cancer, really coming on strong and trying to attack ourselves. When we can think of it more as dissolving or embracing or nurturing from within, then your body can easily remove cancer from your system. It can easily take stress away from your system. So thinking about nurturing and dissolving old patterns rather than attacking them is a much healthier, that's a new paradigm.
Yes. Yeah. So I've spoken of it as instead of like trying to fix what's broken, we're actually creating the conditions that allow our wholeness to come forth.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Battle. You know, I teach a lot of cancer patients, and they all know that I have a thing with the battle against cancer. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's an enormous expenditure of energy that really is not going to come back for you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is what we have right now in this moment. So how might I best create the container in which to hold it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that cancer is you. It's in your body, therefore it's you. So if I'm suddenly battling a part of myself now, I'm in a pretty complex situation that doesn't have much language around healing. Well, when I can say, hey, okay, there's part of me that's out of balance. How do I nurture it so it can come back into balance? Then we have, the potential for real health at that point. I want to pick a little bit up on the biofield if we've got a couple more minutes there, because any patterns of physical disease is held in the biofield. And when we work to clear it from the biofield, it can then clear from the physical. Trying to clear it from the physical, mostly in a medical sense here, trying to clear it from the physical leaves the pattern in the biofield, which means then ailments, illness comes back because nothing was cleared in the biofield. It's that feeling that we can remove a symptom without treating the cause. Amazing work done by Dr. Valerie Hunt out of UCLA over many decades of work. She's a very pioneering scientist into the concept of bioenergy. So a lot of the science we have around the biofield comes from her work, which is now being built on by many other amazing scientists. But that understanding that ailments, illnesses, diseases, they come in first as a pattern in the biofield. Then they come in closer and closer until they manifest in the physical, the most dense form of our being. To clear them out of the physical, they need to also be cleared through the biofield. So it's a very powerful tool. Enabling the vitality of your biofield can really resolve those health issues that nothing's really been able to touch. Very powerful work.
Yes. And how do we do that?
Yeah. So somewhat, we've already talked about consciousness. We've talked about that exercise. We've talked about the figure eighting. Yeah. That figure eighting can invite your biofield to remember its old healthy patterns, or maybe new healthy patterns because it never had them, but within the template of health that is in every cell membrane. Your energetic core sends it out through every membrane in your body. Then actually that template of health can reactivate within the biofield. So those are the places, nourishing yourself physically, spiritually, working with your figure eight. So simple, it's incredible, isn't it? We think if it's too easy, it's not going to be effective. Well, all I can say is play with it, try it. Say for 1 week, you're going to work with little figure eights that you're drawing with your hands, maybe just one hand if it's difficult to do two, and you're going to draw them all over your body. You're going to try and draw them towards the back of your body and kind of send them around there. Try it for a week. And let me know how you feel, because I know you will feel different. As we get weaving that biofield tighter, it's able to activate patterns of health and begin to release patterns of ill health. So yeah, those are the places. And of course, there's always a place for practitioners. So energy medicine practitioners, whatever form of biofield practitioners sometimes I get asked to recommend a certain type of healing modality. But for me, the skill is always the individual. So you might go to a cranial osteopath who's an amazing practitioner, in which case he or she is the right practitioner for you. You might go to an energy medicine or a Reiki or a aura. But it's about the relationship you have with the practitioner. Don't get hung up on specificity of what the modality is. Find the person, and whatever that person is trained in is going to be something that your vibration loves.
And that goes back again to the notion of trusting yourself. If you just get a sense,
absolutely,
the person serves you, then go to them. If you get the sense that they don't,
yep,
honor that too. That happens so much in the medical world. I mean, in my new role, as a non-medical person teaching people with cancer, people don't. It doesn't occur to them that they can say, this person and I don't fit.
Yeah, totally. And it's no judgment on that person, is it? Because that's the other place. Often we feel, oh, I must be a bad person because my friends really like this individual and now I'm thinking they're not the right person for me. But it really is about understanding you are a unique vibration. That clinician is a unique vibration. Some vibrations really click with each other and some don't. But for you to find that vibrational health, it's important the person you're working with resonates well with that. Really important.
Yes, thank you. That is really important.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, Prune, I can't believe we're running a little short on time. And I know I went all over the place because I get so excited to talk to you and to talk about energy work. Is there anything that you wanted to share with us that we've not touched on?
Well, I guess really I want to almost re-emphasize how quickly your biofield can change, because often we feel like we're stuck in habits that just keep repeating, and every single one of us has been there, yeah. But if you can bring your consciousness to that habit and then begin to bring in simple exercises that we've shared here, then actually that habit can transform within a matter of days. That's the potential of the biofield, to really take something and respectfully release it so that it's no longer part of your software. If we think it like that, there's a glitch somewhere in the software, some patterns being held that isn't enhancing your life. And you bring your consciousness to it and you bring some exercise and then you do those exercises for a few days. And wow, that software can simply reboot in a really healthy way. So yeah, I guess if there's anything I want to leave you with, it's the reassurance that auras change millisecond by millisecond. So then all that creates them, other than our own life force, is our consciousness. So holding that potential or being curious about the potential for change means that biofield invites it in.
And so just one quick clarification. So you're suggesting that we do an exercise while we're holding the pattern that we are stuck in.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're almost feeding conflicting information.
Yeah, totally. So maybe the pattern is, I don't think I'm good enough to go for that job. I don't think I'm good enough to go for that job, which pretty much translates as, I don't think I'm good enough, doesn't it? But, you might decide to focus on the job. So in that case, you could recognize that to say, all right, this is a pattern that I've played with for years. All of these patterns we've played with for years. So I'm actually going to work on that one. I really am curious to see if I can invite that one to change. So then you'd come to your hand on your abdomen, your hand on your forehead. And you might just sit with that thought and you might be curious about it. All right, so I'm thinking about this job and I'm too scared to go for it. I don't feel like I'm good enough. And I wonder why I feel like that. Let's think about ways that I am a good person. Okay, so we think about that. Let's think about times I've gone for things and I've been really knocked back. Okay. So we just engage in curiosity around that thought. We're not going to just simply repeat the pattern, I'm not a good enough person, I'm not a good enough person. We just engage with curiosity. And then at the end, work with those figure eights. Help the space that you've brought into the biofield release that pattern. It's a really beautiful tool to gently invite change in.
And really what it is communication with your own being, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what your biofield is all about. It is a field of energy and information that communicates at all times.
So we do ourselves a disservice to not communicate.
Absolutely. You're missing out on all of your amazing juiciness if you're not accessing it. So totally. And if we had choice, so the word disservice implies that we choose not to. But when we're in those places, we don't feel we have choice. So of course, it's about kind of coming back to ourselves and recognizing, oh, blimey, yeah, I listened to that summit and I got some good tidbits. And one of them was about choice. And I'm going to try some of the exercises of all of the amazing people that are on this summit. So you just keep empowering yourself.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
You're really welcome. It's my pleasure to be here.
And so the good news is that you're going to continue sort of this conversation in the form of an ebook and your free gift for our folks.
Absolutely, absolutely. Lots of different exercises there that you can do for energy essentials for every day. So yeah, please, please have a good look and enjoy doing the exercises. Feel how they transform you.
Yes, it's a beautiful book, and I'm looking forward to working with it as well.
Excellent.
So I hope that everybody, if nothing else, if you haven't heard anything else today, just hear that your energy body changes on a dime, and that you have an inner light that maybe you can't see, but it's in there. And your willingness to communicate with your body, with your mind, with your spirit, with your soul has the potential to really make a big difference. And for me, that is just so incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
To use a dose of.
Yeah, and make a big difference, not just for yourself, but for your relationships with your family, with your community. We're living at times when we're all looking for paradigm shifts so that we can live in a supported and healthy planet. So when we wake up, when we start really being in communication with ourselves, wow, we become very, very powerful collectively. So that's exciting too.
Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Prune. It has been such an honor and a pleasure to be with you today.
Thanks, Gina.
Yes,
Really
thank
enjoyed
you. Yes, thank you so much for everybody who joined us.